Recently, I was flicking through a Kmart catalogue, as you do, and happened to spot these mini arcade machines advertised for $20 each. Space Invaders, Frogger, Asteroids and Centipede were the options available, and like all good 20-somethings, I posted about it on social media and then visited my local Kmart at the nearest convenience to pick up Frogger. I have a soft spot for that little amphibian, and while I was also tempted by Space Invaders, that was actually the only one out of stock. I can't say I'm too desperate to find it all the others though. Items like this tend to permanently live on a shelf after a few weeks, but I thought Frogger would at least make a fun review. First off, a bit of background. There have been several Frogger mini arcade machines like this one over the years, but probably the most prominent was the Coleco mini arcade series that included a Frogger unit in 1982. That included a vacuum fluorescent display, so definitely looked quite snazzy for the time, and even featured in a recent 8-Bit Guy video. That video also includes yet another new version of Frogger in miniature form, although that one appears to use a dot matrix display, while the type in this review uses an LCD segmented display. In case you're wondering, this unit was manufactured by Basic Fun, which is a division of the Bridge Direct. Their website largely seems to be under construction, although it appears they specialize in licensed toys. Funnily enough, they actually do a new version of Mattel's electronic football from 1977 as well, which I briefly mentioned in a video about the Microvision. For some reason, when it comes to this line of mini arcades, they only show Space Invaders and a Pac-Man unit that Kmart doesn't seem to sell. Oh well. Before we crack it open, let's admire the packaging since it's the type that's going to be destroyed no matter how careful I am. I'm not the type to care about keeping things sealed, however, I would like to keep it as close to its original state as possible, since it will no doubt become shelf dressing sooner rather than later. And yeah, not really a whole lot to say really, it's packaging. I'd say it does its job well enough to stand out on a store shelf, and the text is descriptive enough. You know, it tells you to hop on logs and frogs to make it home safely. There's not really much else to say. It does include a demo mode though, and all the others I spotted in the store did so as well. It's time for less jabbering and more cutting now, as we see what the package holds. I opted to cut the tape at the bottom, as it seems a little less destructive than piercing the cardboard at the top. Inside, predictably, is the unit itself, plus the instruction sheet. I should note that the batteries are actually pre-installed, which is a nice touch. However, I'd be wary if you came across one of these sealed in an op shop in 10 years time, as they might be leaking. From here, all that remains is a tag on the back to be removed, and it's all ready to play. As for the game itself, it holds up to arcade spec fairly well. The graphics are the main difference obviously because of the segmented display, but it doesn't impact the gameplay all that much. I'd say that the gameplay suits this type of display quite well really, because of its stepped nature. I wonder how well the Asteroids version holds up if it's using the same type of screen. However, the music does sound a bit different, which may or may not be to do with the licensing. I'm not actually sure. As a nice touch though, the music does dynamically change as you make your way through the game. The form factor is a bit awkward though. It's a bit too small to comfortably play on a desktop, and the nature of the screen construction means that you can see all the segments for the LCD if you look at it from too high up. It's not too bad of a shape that you can't just simply hold it with one hand while playing with the joystick with the other hand, although it makes me wonder how much better the version with a dot matrix display is to play overall. I haven't seen one for sale over here yet, but I will be keeping an eye out. For what it's worth, the joystick is quite responsive though. Otherwise, it includes several levels of audio, and it also keeps your high score when you turn it off, which I thought was a nice touch. The build quality isn't too bad. The plastic is as plasticky as you'd expect, but the artwork is nice and fairly reminiscent of the original arcade machine. The one complaint I have is the stickers for the artwork. I've had my unit for only a week as of filming, but some of the stickers are already starting to peel. That's a bit crap. Alright, you know what I'm like. Let's see what's inside. The 8-Bit Guy's Centipede actually had Qbert installed on the same ROM, which was accessed by shorting a component on the main board. I'm not expecting anything like that because of the specifically made segmented display, but I was still curious nonetheless. The main board is quite unremarkable really. I'm guessing everything is all on the one chip, which is hidden within that glop top. The buttons are all of the membrane type, even the joystick, which are just 4 buttons laid out. Somewhat interestingly, there is a button on the main controller board that is not used. It's labelled as Start, even though the Start button is on the other side, and that is labelled as Fire and Mode. I guess they just mass-produce these boards for every type of machine. And yes, I did transfer the membrane over to the button labelled Start, but of course it did nothing. Otherwise, the speaker is rated at 8 ohms and a quarter watt. Nothing too interesting to see there. The screen was a little bit more exciting, but only because of the different layers. I should warn you that this was a huge pain to reassemble afterwards, so I would advise against disassembly, but for what it's worth, it comprises of a polarizer, the graphics overlay, and the backlighting module. Okay, time to put this thing back together and collect some final thoughts on the matter. There is nothing inherently wrong with the Frogger Mini Arcade. It's cheap, close to arcade perfect when the gameplay is concerned, and it is fun, but only for a while, and that's its biggest problem. I can't see myself playing this regularly once the video is complete. If I ever want to play Frogger, I have much better means to do so. Sadly, it's kind of a gimmick. For its price, I would at least see it as being an okay gift idea for your retro-infused family and friends. Otherwise, I guess it will look nice on a shelf if you're into that type of thing. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that dot matrix display version though, maybe even the Coleco 1980s version.